And now I would like to introduce Member of Knesset Amir Peretz from the Zionist Union, previously Minister of Defense. Well, hello. All the 30 pages that I prepared, I've left in the car, and instead try and speak from one heart to another and truly put all my thoughts here and my heart on the table. Now, I was very impressed by all the opinions, and don't forget I was also Minister of Environment Protection in the past, and by the ideas of Member of Knesset Yaakov Perry, the previous Minister of Science. But I would like to talk about the main issue as I see it. The Palestinian representative, Mr. Elias Zananiri, spoke in something that I have stressed. But I won't even talk about that today because Elias is right. The question is not whether we want peace. Of course, it's obvious that everyone wants that's a peace. No one even sees that as a question. It's a given. But the question is who is willing to pay the price of peace? And it's like someone who wants to buy a Mercedes, but I want to pay the price of a Subaru. It just doesn't work. Peace in this region is the Mercedes. It is the most paramount program possible and desire possibly. And what is lacking more than anything is leadership, leadership, leadership. And to my chagrin, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is a first-class tactician and a strategist that has really, that it is stagnant, and his truly stagnant strategy. And that's it, that the Prime Minister can appear at the Sarona complex, yes, a Prime Minister, after the terror attack, and the only thing he can tell us are what are the instructions that he's given or is going to be given to do this kind of closure or that kind of demolition in Yatta in the village. But that could be the commissioner of the police could do it, or the chief of staff could do it, but the Prime Minister should come and say what is our vision, what is the direction of our whole plan, and how can you remove Yatta from Israel and not anything else. And please forgive me, I'd like to say something personal, and it is very painful. Nearly 35 years ago, I was elected the mayor of Sderot. It was always the microcosmos of the whole macro question of the state of Israel. We were the first, and I remember in my nappies, I used to wake up with cotton wool in my ears because Fedayeen were actually infiltrating our whole town, and the Shabak and the police were looking, and the army was looking for it. And so there's a lie that people keep using. The missiles didn't start after the disengagement. They started a long time before that. If anyone says we gave them territory and then we got missiles, that is a lie. That's mendacious. Because, yes, 4 years later, it all happened before. But that's not only what I want to say. In the 80s, our mothers used to reach the square, the town square, and at 8 o'clock in the morning get up onto a truck, go into the Gaza Strip. They'd go to the Gaza Strip to the market and do their shopping and get home at lunchtime. And in 85, I remember speaking to the residents of Sderot, perhaps one of the first public officials in a Zionist party, who said, we need a Palestinian state established as quickly as possible, because the quicker we establish it, the less extreme it will be. And that is not only a Palestinian interest, it is more of an Israeli interest. And everyone said, what for? Everything is okay. Look, business as usual. People go to dentists in the Gaza Strip. People go shopping in the market in the Gaza Strip. And when there's violence, everyone says, oh, it's terrible. There's no part of a peace. So when exactly will we do it? When will we are we waiting for a catastrophe? Or isn't it well worthwhile that we as a leadership should say it's incumbent upon us, the responsibility is ours to do it a step before that? Now, when everyone says that the people are going rightwardly, they're not. They're going leftwardly. If a few years ago you'd have talked about a two-state solution, the results would have been totally different. Now there's a sweeping majority that want a two-state solution, and they're willing to do it with brave steps. Yes, the people seem to be going leftwardly, and yet they're voting right-wing. How come? How does that happen? Perhaps some of you won't like my answer. The peace camp in Israel has turned peace into an elitist product that only belongs to a specific cluster. It is being disconnected from our people. We have to do everything to make it a popular product. So the person who works in the little ironmonger's shop or somewhere else, in other words, that do manual labor, it will belong to them as well, and they will aspire for peace that will belong to everyone, and they will force the leadership in Israel to take those measures and steps. Benjamin Netanyahu otherwise will continue with his policy of frighten and rule, frighten and rule, frighten and rule. And he's waiting for someone to come with scissors and knives. He won't talk about demographics, because in demographics we are failing and things are definitely not in our favor, but the opposite. And I'm delighted that Nir Barkat was elected with 102 voices in the council, and there are 210,000 Palestinians who came in Jerusalem who did not vote. Had they come to vote, we would have probably got one of the grandchildren of the Mufti to be the mayor of the capital of Israel for eternity. But here, you have one of the residents. Yes, I'm just about to conclude, and he knows full well how difficult it is. And I'm not talking, God forbid, anti, but I'm saying the Palestinians themselves did not want to come and vote because they do not want to recognize Israel's sovereignty. So therefore, if we go to the public and say that the demographic issue is more important, is more treacherous, and needs to be dealt with, and not only by frightening and scaring people about what's going to happen tomorrow morning, in order to prevent the terror attacks that could happen tomorrow morning, we need to deal with the demographic issue. And in order to prevent the tactical issues, we need to start thinking strategically. And as far as I'm concerned, Bibi Netanyahu is not the solution. He is the problem. And that's what we've got to grapple with.
Thank you so much to the presenters. I would like to move over to the next panel, but let me just ask you one question, Mr. Peretz, after your enthusiastic speech. Should I believe the head of your party, member of Knesset, has struck that there is an historical opportunity, or this is just a tease, a game by Netanyahu? Maybe he just wanted sort of to, separate and govern, as is the phrase. I think that the whole question of whether the Prime Minister was able to trick or cheek Herzog, that is less important. I think what is important is at the end of the day, the Prime Minister took a strategic decision in real time. The minute he understood that if he goes with the Zionist Union, he will have to come and, pay political prices. At the end of the day, he took that strategic decision. He went back to his baseline. And even those who say that the Prime Minister said a nice sentence about the regional initiative, he took it back. A few days ago, he said he doesn't even accept the very basic principles of that regional initiative. That is why I say take the Prime Minister seriously. So the whole story that that comes out, if only there was a Zionist union who would push the Prime Minister forward to peace, that is very weird. A leader of the people has to come to the people and say, this is my plan. This is good for you, for the Jewish people. If you want to join me, let them join me. When he says that, we will support him. Until that time, he will not fall into that honey trap that he poses time and time again, and then we just remain with the sting. I think, what hovers above that, regional initiative and what the Israelis want. Do they see the Arabs as a babysitter to the Palestinians? Somebody who will take over the responsibility that Palestinians have to take for the region? And do the Arabs have to actually bring about that feeling or cause us to feel more safe? Can Saudi Arabia do that? That is one question. The other question is a question of failure. Avi Gaba, I think, touched upon that, where, again, those combined negotiations with many of the Arab states. Yaakov Perry said it's a great thing because even if it fails, he said, we will be perceived differently. But is it maybe dangerous, too dangerous, to conduct negotiations with Arab states and with the Palestinians? And if nothing comes about it, as we have seen in the past 20 years, will it not be reason enough for things to deteriorate and for a war to break out? Maybe we should just, think small, remain very channeled, very local, not to take too many risks, because such a broad initiative also means greater risks. I would like to thank the panelists, Mr. Gaba and Mr. Peretz, and to call upon Kobi Huberman, who will moderate the next session.